Blessed be the name of the Lord. Hallelujah. Praise God. When I was coming this morning, I totally forgot that it was church anniversary. I was just trying to get to job. But when I got here, it started going on me again. By the way, it's anniversary. And when I thought back to when we started, actually when the church started, I was working in Senegal. I was running between Senegal and Nigeria because I was setting up a radio station in Senegal, and I had been just coming once in a while to Jesus Embassy with Sam Badaki. And when I got back, I learned Pastor had moved here and started, and I said, okay, let me go to church. So I'm just saying this to say I have an idea that all this was around 2005 when I was doing that move. I can't remember. So when I look at some of these young boys and girls running around, and I look at them and say, I need this one as a pregnancy. So they are now 25 years old. So we just give glory to God. We thank God that God is doing something special here. And the way we ended the first service was a clear confirmation that God is doing something really, really special here. And I thank God I belong to a congregation in which on Sunday morning we can discuss artificial intelligence, and we don't feel guilty about it. We don't feel we are not doing what we have been sent to do. And it takes somebody who really understands what God has sent him to do this, because a pioneer, being a pioneer is a very, very difficult position. There's a Yoruba saying, "Ma fi ewogbo, eyin elo ma fi la." If you're going to pull somebody through a thicket, it is your back that will pry it open. And all the things Pastor has been saying, that we will work hard, it is his own back that is paving the way. So we just thank God that we have a man of God that understands his ministry sufficiently clearly that he's willing to use his back to pave the way. We give glory to God. Talking about AI is what I do for a living. So when I am now asked to come and do it in church, it's like double blessing. Once I've overcome that thing about, no, we are supposed to be talking about holiness, not about AI. So it's with pleasure that I want to speak this morning about the future of work from the point of view of how we as Christians who have been ordained of God to support him in his continuing creation, how we are supposed to conduct ourselves and arrange ourselves so that we can fulfill that purpose that he has placed before us. Because it is clear from everything that is available to us that these developments in AI, in technology, all these things happening, they are not developments that God did not anticipate. They are not surprises sprung on God. They are part of what he had seen are going to happen, and all the promises in the Bible that he has made us were made within the context of these things happening. So we should not look at these things as aberrations or something we should avoid, something we should... and I had my own baptism of dealing with these circumstances many years ago, because of course I grew within a Christian era when we were very afraid of the end times, the beast, and all that. How do we manage ourselves that we do not get into trouble, mark of the beast, we don't get 666 and all that. I grew through all that as a teenager. But then, maybe about 20 or a little more years ago, I was working with a company in the US. A friend of mine had been brightly blessed of God, had entered a number of patents, and in pushing the work ahead, he felt more confident and secure to bring his friends in to work with him, so that because he has trust and he knows we'll be loyal to him and help him keep the intellectual property and all that. And we were working on really cutting-edge science. And the church we attended in the US then, somebody came to us, two of us, we were talking, and he said, you people are developing technology for the beast. And my friend looked at me and said, Tunde, we are developing technology for the beast. He said, whether you develop the technology or not, since God has said it will happen, it will happen. And no technology is specifically developed for negative ends. Every technology is potentially neutral. It is to the use that it is put that now says whether it's being used positively or negatively. Take a knife, for example. You can use a very sharp knife to undertake a surgical operation, or you can use it to stab somebody. So you can use it to bring somebody to life, or use it to kill somebody. And that is the attitude that we should have to these developments. But beyond that, beyond the attitude of becoming comfortable and also seeking the face of God as to where we should be in all these developments, we should realize that we have a responsibility to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world in this situation, because, as we'll be seeing, there are lots of capacity, there are lots of dimensions of negativity in all these technologies. Of course, every technology has its positive and has its negative. And the more powerful the technology is, the more powerfully positive it can be, and the more powerfully negative it can be. And if the world that we live in is going to take full advantage of the positives of these developments and reduce the possibility of the negatives to its barest minimum, it is we, the people of God, that will take that responsibility. And that is why I continue to thank God that we have, at least in Ibadan, in Nigeria, somebody whose understanding of his ministry is sufficiently clear that we are able to find ourselves in a place like this on a Sunday morning, celebrating our anniversary. Let me start by trying to put the concept of work in context. I touched about it a little bit in the morning, because there are some of these things that they are so fundamental, they are difficult to understand. If you are to define something fairly complex, yes, you bring a number of simple things together and you use it to define it. But when you have to define something so fundamentally basic, it becomes difficult. So what is work? So if you think about it, you find that work. Ishe now. Okay, what is Ishe? So because it's that fundamental, it's that basic, it becomes a bit difficult sometimes to be able to handle it. And that's why philosophers always take things from the very, very, very basic point of view. If you look at work very, very closely, what you will find common to the whole of the idea, concept, notion of work is that it brings about change. Anything that brings about change demands work. Anytime there is change, there's work involved. And anytime there is work, change will follow it. And that is the background from which we need to understand this thing about work. Work is the mechanism, the instrumentality of change, such that whenever there is change, it is work that caused it. And whenever there is work, there is a change. So we can look at work as transformation. Whatever does not change dies. Anything that is living will continue to change. And once you see something that is not changing, this is because the thing is dead. So there's something about life in change. Therefore, there's something about life in work. Work it is that turns potentialities into actualities. Whatever you have that has potentialities, whatever you have that has some inherent possibility of becoming something else, something better, even something worse sometimes. Whatever has that potentiality of becoming better will not become that better thing until work goes into it. So it is important. Work is fundamental. It is what makes actualities realizable. Without work, what will have been actuality will remain a potentiality. And that is very, very important, because God has already built all these potentialities into the world he has created, and it now behoves of us as his children to put in the work to bring these actualities into realization. Needless to say that the God we serve is a working God. Because like I said in the morning, the introduction we had of God was with work. The first verse of the first book in the Bible says, in the beginning, God created. Which means he worked. And when he started all this, his process of working, he did this, he did that, he was making pronouncements, and things were becoming. And when he got to us, he said, let us make man in our own image. And he formed us in his image and breathed his life into us. And we became living souls. And therefore, we too are meant to work. Because if we have his image and we have his spirit, because he is a working God, we are therefore, being part of his workmanship, we are also supposed to work. Work, as Pastor pointed out in the morning, work may be hard, but it is not punishment. Work doesn't come easy, but it is necessary. And it is not, God did not give us work just to punish us. And there is a dimension in which God said, okay, because you've done that, you will see. But that's not the end of it. Because even before the fall, God had ordained us to work. The consequence of the fall is that the work now becomes difficult to the extent, and God has given us the capacity to make it easier. And from the time we started working, there has been that gradual and steady propensity towards making it easier and easier and easier. And that is what brought us to where we are today, with technology and artificial intelligence. So it is clear that where we find ourselves today is not a situation that God didn't anticipate, that God is now trying to manage. No, it was foreseen. It was part of the plan that man will have sufficient understanding of the world that God has created, that will be able to do things like this. And it is part of God's plan that we'll be able to do it. So the responsibility, therefore, to make us use it right and make us use it to the glory of God and make us use it to fulfill the purpose that God has intended for us, is the responsibility lies on us as humans to make it happen, to make what God intended come to pass. In the footnotes that Pastor puts, each time Pastor asks me to preach, I just discovered that I just have to look very, very closely at the letter he writes me, or the theme and the things that has built around the theme. Everything you need is there. One of the statements he made in the theme is reimagining work, wealth, worship, and witness for a new era. I see how faith, innovation, and purpose intersect in today's workplace. So I want to talk about work as a means to wealth, work as worship, and work as witness. So, in the first service, Pastor Kunle talked extensively about work as a means to wealth. It is inevitable. Like I've said, work releases value. Work brings out potentials in circumstances. Part of the problem that we experience in Nigeria today is that we have not put the type of work we need to put into our potentials to be great. We were blessed of God with oil. Between you and me, we don't even know the capacity. We don't have the capacity to dig and bring it out. We import people to come and do that for us. And those who have come to do it for us, because it is to the advantage, say, don't worry, we'll bring it out and take it away. And when we take it away, we'll come and give you some. And they give us some, and we don't really have enough. And because we need more, so some of the money they gave us for taking it away, we now use it to go and buy from them. And then the whole issue of subsidy and all that comes up. Because we have not put in the type of work that will make that potential actual, to turn the potentials into actuality. So there is the character of work, that work produces value. Work in the process of turning potentialities into actuality produces value. And that's why it is said in Yoruba, Ishe loogun ishe. Work is the antidote of poverty. Whenever a person is poor, there is a dimension of that poverty that is saying that person has not put the type of work that is needed into what needs to be done. There could be circumstances beyond the person's control. Yeah, maybe the person doesn't have the knowledge, maybe he doesn't have the skills, maybe he is in a state or she is in a state that is not able to deploy the knowledge and skills. But the fact remains that to go from a situation of not having to a situation of having Work is what makes it happen. So the most common notion of work is that it breeds wealth. And that's why we tend to think that the purpose of work is to become wealthy. Not exactly. It is an inevitable concomitance. Once you work and you work right, you will be wealthy. But that is not the purpose. Pastor has said over and over again this morning and before that, you are supposed to be a pipe, not a bucket. The thing is supposed to flow through you. And if it flows through you, you will be wet. There's no way you will slaughter an animal and your hands will not be soiled with blood. So it is not possible that you are a conduit of wealth without being wealthy, because it is a matter of overflowing. It is the overflow that is going to the others. But when you don't understand that, when you have maybe limited and you are not sufficiently bold to make it flow, you think the way to become rich is by holding what you have. Then you now find that there are difficulties in becoming rich. So fundamentally, work breeds value. One of the things that work changes is your state of wealth. Work is that which causes change. And the change is in various dimensions. And one of the dimensions of the change brought about by work is in the state of your wealth. When we talk about work as worship, let us first of all realize that worship starts with acknowledgement of God. The basis, the core of our worship is the acknowledgement of God. Acknowledgement of God as our source. Acknowledgement of God as our provider. Acknowledgement of God as the merciful that is able to take us out of negativities we deserve. Acknowledgement of God as gracious that is able to give us that which we don't even deserve in the positive. That is the beginning of worship. All work, everything we do by the name of work that brings about a positive change. Not only religious work, not only giving of alms, not only the things that we regard as religious. All work that changes the state of anything from one to a more positive state is worship of God. Whatever we do that tends towards the fulfillment of the order, of the commission, of the mission that God gives us to increase and multiply, subdue and replenish the earth, is work that is tantamount to worship of God. The pastor said in the morning that all the nations of the world that have blessed the world are nations that have been touched by the gospel. There is an old Christian writer by the name of C.S. Lewis who said that the Western world became scientific because they turned away from the worship of gods to the worship of the only and true living God. And that the only and true living God is a God that works based on principles and laws, and that Western scientists became scientific because they believed in a God that is a God of laws, that God that gives laws, that makes statements, that makes stipulations, that gives you basics of causes and effects. So, in understanding the world that God has created and bringing about what some theologians regard as the Protestant ethic, which were developments at a time in history with people like Martin Luther, John Knox, and a number of other people from Europe who got to a point where they felt, look. I mean, this world can be a better place. We must work for the expansion of knowledge. We must work to make sure that everybody has access to knowledge. Because before that so-called Protestant revolution, even the knowledge of God was passed through to people through other people. Only a few people read and wrote. The sages, they sit down in some monastery, they are copying manuscripts. And once in a while, they tell a few things to people. But it got to a point that Protestant Reformation got to a point where I said, no, everybody should have access to this knowledge. And that is what brought about the so-called Gutenberg Revolution, in which books became what we have today. Books did not exist. Books have not existed for as long as we may think, the way we have it today. Just a few hundred years ago. Before then, only a few select people had access to writing and can read. It was referred to as chirographic literacy, as against what we now have, which is described as typographic literacy. Literacy that is a result of typography, in which you can take one book and make thousands of copies of it. So at the heart of that ethic is work as vocation rather than occupation. So we see there a fulfillment of God's purpose in the sense that work is something that we are supposed to do as a matter of course, as a matter of responsibility, not because we want to become rich, or not because, well, an idle hand is a devil's workshop. True as that may be. It is a vocation we need to play our role in fulfilling God's purpose. And it is in that fulfillment of that role that we are carrying on that image of God and the life of God, and that in itself is acknowledgement and worship of God. So that is how work is worship. Work as witness. When we work, we bear witness to the character of God as a God of work, a God of truth, a God of justice, love, excellence, God of compassion. Not only do we do so in such sittings like this in church on Sunday morning, and we return to our other ways during the week, but at our homes, at the marketplace, in our offices, everywhere that we go, that people can say of us, of a truth, these ones, there's something different about them. This is one of the signs that the early apostles were able to show that watered the ground for the gospel. Because people said, these people are different. If we want to find out what makes them different, and that in itself was a witness of the gospel. So work, yes, means to wealth. Work, good, worship, but also work is witness to God. And that's why the Bible in Matthew 5:16 says, let your light so shine before men so that they will see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. It is your good works, the kind of work that turns the potential in circumstances into positive actualities, that becomes witness to God. Like I said earlier on, from the beginning, God had introduced himself to us as a God that works. And that is clear for us to go on. And when God made man and put man in the garden, it was said in the Bible that he put man in the garden to work the garden, to take care of the garden. And that is what we are still involved in. Work is a calling. We are called to work. God specifically calls us to work. You know that word, vocation, has the same root as vocal, which is to say something out. So work, your vocation, work is seen as vocation because it is a calling. It is a demand of you to do. So all these experiences we are now having about changes brought by information communication technologies, about artificial intelligence, not only are they changing the way we work, they are also changing what work itself means. I've said that work is that causes change. But we'll now see that work at different levels brings about changes at different levels. There's manual work. There's work that you do and you will sweat. There's work that you will do, you will not sweat, but you will be tired. It took me a long time to know that when I work at my desk, I am consuming energy. I thought it is only when you are using cutlass and hoe. And that is why, there's this dichotomy in Yoruba culture. They say, that we work with our hands. These ones, they're just writing. They sit behind a desk all day and they claim to be working. But somebody will remain nameless. Will come to me and say, look at, see the way you are looking. Go and eat. You have been sitting at this desk all day. Don't you know you are consuming energy? And if I say she, you will know who to say. It took me time to realize that when you sit down and you are rummaging in your head and you are trying to bring solutions or teaching young people, that it's draining energy from you. So work, changing state comes at different levels. I've talked about changing state from state of poverty to state of wealth. Physicists amongst us, they define work as when a force moves something, that when a force moves for a given distance, that is work. If the force is there and it doesn't move, they say work has not been done. So if you like, you hit your head against this wall. If the wall doesn't move, as far as physicists are concerned, you have not worked. So we must begin to see work from a point of view of output than the point of view of input. So it is not enough that I have tried my best. It's good to try your best. If your best is not good enough, it is not good enough. You must find ways of working in such a way that you make effect, that there is effect, that there is result, that there is output. As we continue to engage these our emerging character of work, going towards this future of work. For us as Christians, we should continuously remember that our notion of work is rooted in creation. Creativity. Not the mere repetition of routines. And I made allusions to that in the morning. So, we should see work as our calling as people of God. We should see work as an element of stewardship to God. So, as the environment of work, as work itself, the way we work, the nature of work, the manner of work continues to change, not only are we supposed to address the technical levels of the change, we are supposed to also engage spiritual discernment in how we are going to respond to this change. No matter the level of automation or autonomy that these new developments bring, we must still see work as sacred, as a calling. And maybe I should make a distinction between automation and autonomy. Automation and autonomy is what differentiates traditional computing, in which a computer can be doing something by itself again and again and again, based on algorithms that human beings have given it. But in autonomy, the computer is not depending on algorithms anymore. The computer is depending on what we call models. Models that it learned from historical data. You are feeding data into the computer, and the computer is looking at the data critically. And after looking at the computer critically, it starts to see patterns. And once the computer starts seeing patterns, it's beginning to say, if this happens, this is what's going to happen next. If this happens, this is what's going to happen next. If this happens, this is what's going to happen next. And that is what has brought us to where we are now. All these things about transformers, large language models, big data, and all that. Everything we refer to as big large language models, GPT, chat being just one application, all it is trying to do is, whenever you give a statement to it, it tries to predict what will come next. That's all. It just tries to predict the next word. And that is by giving it lots and lots and lots of data to be able to predict what comes next. And so if you give it 2-3 words and it predicts what comes next, you now have, say, 4 words. You put the 4 words back into it, it predicts what comes next. You now have 5 words. Take the 5 words, put it back into it, it predicts what comes next. And that way it goes on and on and on until it gives you a full story. It gives you the answer to the questions you are asking. Basically, that is what it's doing. So, and that is autonomy. As different from something being automatic. Automation versus autonomy. So these are the two developments we've had. Even at the state of automation, our work was heavily affected. Very, very much affected in the age of what I refer to as traditional computing, which all the computer did for us for many years was all to remember, because our memories are limited. So we can use the computer to remember many things. And the computer remembers as, you know that your book remembers more than you. It's just that it cannot tell you the information is here. But what the computer is not able to tell you is it cannot tell you it's on page 4. So that was the first thing the computer offered human beings. Remembering, be able to retrieve information and calculation. But now the computer has gone beyond that. It is able to predict, and that is what we refer to as autonomy. So regardless of the level of automation, level of autonomy, we must, as Christians, we must see work as sacred, as calling, as vocation, as something demanded from us by God. And we have to continue to work, because in John 5:17, the Bible says, my Father is always at work to this very day, and I too am working. And when I was young, the song they talk to us is Mufekin Dabi Jesu. I want to be like Jesus. So if, because God is working, Jesus is working, we too will continue to work. And we now have to find ways of ensuring that all these developments do not stop us from working. Because when Jesus made the statement that his Father is working and he too is working, the context was that he was accused of working on the Sabbath. And he says, Sabbath? It was made for man. Man was not, Sabbath is not a God with small g that you now have to worship. It's Sabbath, I can't work. Sabbath was made for man. And in the same vein, all these developments are made for us. We are not made for them. And this is where our responsibilities as people of God, as children of God, more so sons of God, come in. We are to play a role, a very, very important role, in fact, a vital role in ensuring that this technology is not used for the negative. Our work in this development is cut out for us. It is not to stand before a moving train and say, no, we resist artificial intelligence. It is not to stand before a moving train and say we resist technology. Yes, technology has its possible negative repercussions if applied negatively. So our vocation, the work we are cut out to play in this development is to ensure that it is used for good. That's why we are here. It is the responsibility God has given us. All this development, information technology, artificial intelligence, have significant moral consequences. And we must continue to see them as neutral, meaning that they can be applied for positive or negative. And that responsibility of constraining it to be used positively and not to be used negatively is ours. We are the ones that know the heart of God. We are the ones that have a connection with God, that we can use this, our understanding and connection with God, to ensure that these things are not used negatively. Don't look at yourself here as insignificant people who are just following technological developments. No. we have a clear responsibility given to us by God. What we need to play that role demands work itself. We have to learn, we have to understand. And that is why we are here on a Sunday morning talking about it. We must, as children of God, play that role that God had ordained of us. I said earlier on that all these developments did not come as a surprise to God. The plan that God had for it is us. We are the ones that God is depending on, that my children are there, they'll take care of it. So we need to understand, we need to get into it, we need to have sufficient awareness to be able to bring God's purpose out of it. As much as these technologies enhance human capacity for output, they also amplify human capacity for sin. So we as individuals, as Christians, as people called by the name of God, must first of all ensure that we are not marred up in that, and that we discourage its use by others. The fact that something is permissible does not mean it is expedient. That's what the Bible says to us. It may be legal. Our laws may allow for it, but is it legitimate? Is it something that our culture, as children of the living God, called by his name, should be found in? Is it the kind of labor relationship that people who call themselves children of God should be found in? Many times, because of the kinds of people I associate with, I get people talking negatively about Christianity, because they claim that Christianity was used to enslave Africa, was used to colonize Africa, and all that, and all that, and all that. Of course, there are misunderstandings about this, and there are situations in which people of God were found culpable. So we should not repeat that history. We should not profane the name of God, because work for us is stewardship to God. So we should ensure that we do not allow the name of God to be profaned in this, just because some others do it. Our principles do not allow for it. We have an ethical responsibility in all these developments. We need to make the fact that something can be automated does not mean it has to be automated. These are some of the principles, these are some of the moral principles that are involved. The fact that a process can be automated does not mean it should be automated. We should consider the consequences of every step in automation. And this, I'm not asking for knee-jerk response, but application of spiritual discernment, like I said earlier on, to every situation, and therefore come out with studious contemplation of what are the possible repercussions of whichever way we use these technologies, and play our role in letting the world know that there are directions of use of these technologies that will not augur well for mankind. We should insist in whatever way these technologies are used. We as people of God should insist on transparency. We should insist on fairness, accountability, particularly in AI systems, because AI systems have a way of replicating human weaknesses. And because AI systems are built from historical data. So if we as human beings have behaved in ways that are not right, the system will learn it. There was an experiment in which some AI systems were fed with the thinking of Machiavelli, who is a popular or notorious, the author of the popular "The End Justifies the Means." That whatever you do, as long as you get a right result, you are all right. And you see that the kind of things that come out of that are not encouraging. So we as people of God, we should stand in the vanguard of ensuring transparency. Transparency meaning that we don't have to trust the system. What do I mean by this? When you talk of transparency, what you are saying is you don't need to trust the system because the system has laid itself bare to you. So if you say somebody is if you have a leadership and you say that leadership is transparent, what you are saying is you trust, you know that they have done the right thing, not because you trust them to be good people. It's because you can see the processes and you see that what they have done is right. That's the meaning of transparency. Ordinarily, it's like you can look through, you see through it. So it's like glass. You look at it, you see the other end. But if things are hidden, you won't see the other end. That's not transparency. So when you talk about transparency in interactions of people, what you are saying is the reason why I believe you is not because I trust you. It is because you have laid it bare. So transparency. Fairness. The results that these systems are giving us, is it fair to all? Are they fair to all? Or are they painting some people in negative light? There was a time not too long ago when an early Google attempt at image recognition, a white male was put before the system, the camera, and they asked, "What is this?" The system said, a male human being. Yeah, white male, it's a human being, male. Then they put a black person, and the system said, a gorilla. True story. And it became a scandal, and Google quickly took it off. You probably have seen, there's this story, you can still find this on the internet. The racist soap dispenser, where a white person put their hand below the soap dispenser and it dispensed soap. And a black person put their hand there. And because black does not reflect enough light as white, the system didn't see the hand and did not dispense. So these are issues that we need to address. The technology is neutral. We have to guide it through fairness. Accountability. If a human being gives an advice and the result of the advice is not positive, the person is marked. He probably won't get promotion next time because he put the company in jeopardy. If it was AI that took the decision, who will be punished? So we must ask people. These are responsibilities of people of God. Though. These are things we need to establish. And like I said before, let us not think we are just some people in Ibadan who don't matter. Once we establish and we say, no, as people of God, we refuse, people will start listening. They may even overlook us for some time. But when we insist, we say, no, this is our God-given responsibility to ensure that a model does not refer to a person as a gorilla. then we are insisting on accountability. All these, we must make sure we have all these in AI system to be able to uphold the integrity of God's creation. AI may seek for efficiency, seek for optimization, seek for prediction. We, as representatives of God on earth, are to we should insist on the irreducible human dignity. Whatever AI is going to do, in whatever way it is going to work, either help us, it must sustain the irreducibility of human dignity. The human is a special creation of God, and we cannot allow any development to reduce human dignity in any way. We should resist all tendencies to see humans in the workplace as statistics or human resource merely as a factor of production. The human is a sacred creation of God and must be respected. All humans. All humans. So AI is bound to assume some of the... So far, computers have assumed a lot of the routinous work we do. Take this thing, put it on there, and move this there. Computers can do that now much better than human beings can do them. And they don't need leave. They don't need break time. They don't have funerals and take time off work. They just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. So they will do that. But as we promote, as we exploit them in this context, we must always insist that humans should be treated as humans. And whenever we have taken care of all these kind of repetitive things, we must come back and elevate humans in the things that only us can do for now. To be sympathetic, to be empathetic, to be creative, to deploy ethics, to have faith. Because AI, as much as it's beginning to replicate a lot of what humans can do, it does not have faith. And without faith, you can't please God. So the results of AI cannot please God if we do not constrain it by our faith. These are responsibilities we have. We have for enough time stood in front of a moving train. No, it's the devil. 666. That's not what God has sent us. All these 666 things, because they are written in the Bible, they will come to pass. It is God's word. We can't change it. There's nothing we can do that will change it. That is not what God has called us to do. What God has called us to do is to ensure that the elect are saved. That is our responsibility, to ensure that in the results that AI brings out, there is sympathy, there is empathy. After all, even it is in this wicked world that a judge will judge a case and say, okay, I temper justice with mercy. So, how much more should we bring to bear upon the results of what we get from AI? Sympathy, empathy, creativity, that unique character of God that we also emulate. Ethics, doing things the right way, not just because it works. Faith, like I said Without faith, no man can please God. So we have to ensure that we, people of faith, bring faith to bear on the results of AI so that it can be pleasing to God. And above all, care. Machines don't care. It is we humans, they're kind. As we go on, AI will assume a lot of the routine cognitive labor that humans used to undertake. But we must ensure that these characters are well taken care of. It is our responsibility to renew and uphold the moral and relational dimensions of work as vocation. There is a human part in this. It is we humans that have the grace to do this. Our roles as humans, created in the image of God, more so, sons of the living God called by his name, is to uphold work as care. We must deploy work as care in areas of teaching, healing, even in artisanship. We must see it as caring for people. You know, somebody's apparatus is not working well, and we come and repair it, make it work well. Yes, we make a living by it, but we should deploy it as care for people, making things better for people. We should retain our capacity in creativity, in design, in art, in innovations. AI has managed to bring about a lot of innovations. AI has, in many areas, outstripped human achievements. For example, in the area of genomics, human beings have been struggling for years trying to understand the language of genes. But with AI in the past few years, the whole process of protein folding, as those people, microbiologists and people in that field call it, AI has been able to do a lot of things that human beings have not been able. Some of the things that human beings take years to do, AI is now able to do it in a very short time. But in the area of design, art, innovations, creativity, the human must still take his stand. Discernment. AI cannot be discerning. Whatever AI gets from the data you feed it is what it will bring out. In those days, we talked of garbage in, garbage out. Whatever the algorithm is programmed to do is what the program does. These days, most of what is going on is achieved by only one algorithm, referred to as the learning algorithm. Everything else, the difference is what data do you feed to it. As Christians, are you surprised? Is it not out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks? So whatever we feed into it is what it will bring out. So the discernment that leaders deploy, when you look at the situation and you take position out of empathy, and you say, well, this may not be the best for the organization, but we'll not crucify this person because of this. Let's all join hands to shore up this error and get over it. Mentoring. Woe betide the person who is mentored by AI. Let's leave mentoring to human beings. Justice. The concept of justice, very, very delicate. I was in a discussion not too long ago, and the person I was talking with, she demonstrated to me without a doubt that justice is merely an euphemism for retaliation. That if we don't take care what we call justice is an euphemism for retaliation. So in order to establish justice, the God type of justice, we need more than historical data that is determining what an AI model will do. Technology has potentials to deepen inequality in society. It will widen the gap between the haves and the have-not. It will exclude the poor, the uneducated, the disconnected. And when we talk of disconnected here, we are not talking about those who have fiber cables connected to their house or microwave or whatever ways we connect these devices. Whenever we look at networks of computers that deliver the results of AI to us, there's usually a part of it which we refer to as the last half mile or the last mile. That's usually between some central place, and they take a wire to your place or take some microwave to your place or some optical fiber to your place, connects to your terminal. Now, at the end of that mile, that final mile, at the very, very end of it, there's a 6 inches or thereabout between your face and the terminal. That gap can only be filled by the preferred language of the user. And I said that in the morning. If we develop into an information society in which people will have to go and learn foreign languages in order to be able to live, that is the height of inequity. These are the responsibilities we have as people of God. We have a responsibility to ensure that these issues are not responded to by the profit logic. Because profit logic will say, if there are less than so many speakers, why should we worry? We, as people of God, there is a group referred to as SIL, Summer Institute of Linguistics. I used to belong to the West African Linguistics Society, where I still belong to. I used to be in the council, and I attended conferences every year. Each time we go to that conference, you will see between 4 to 10 white men, heavily mosquito beaten. They will try hard to look like us. They will wear danshiki. They will eat what they will. You will see them come, and I wonder who are these, and I move near to them. They are PhDs, master's degree holder in linguistics, who are in bushes trying to translate the Bible into languages of people that have population of 50. It is only the gospel that makes people do that. Go and Google it, Summer Institute of Linguistics. And if you Google ethnologue, because you see, they do it with, they do it strategically. When you hear Summer Institute of Linguistics, and you meet the people involved, and they speak to you with high level of scholarship. Yeah. But beneath it is Bible translation. All the scholarship is for Bible translation. And if you go online and you Google, they say Nigeria has 512 to 560 something languages. It is ethnologue that says so. Ethnologue is the more in your face version of SIL, Summer Institute of Linguistics. So we cannot afford to allow these levels of engagement to be subjected to the prophet logic. We must apply the Spirit of God to make sure that the people who are speaking languages that are spoken by people who are not sufficiently many, that the prophet, that those who will work on their language will justify the work. We cannot allow that to be the way things are done in the world. We are people of God. We are not averse to profit, but it is not profit that is our logic. It is faith in Jesus Christ, who became poor, so that out of his own poverty we can become rich. That is the philosophy we must apply. Our Christian faith demands of us solidarity with the vulnerable, digital justice, advocacy in digital justice, ensuring fair access to education, connectivity, opportunities. All these are responsibilities we have. Our response to AI as Christians should not be fear or rejection. I've said this. What is expected of us is faithful stewardship. We have to use technology. We have to ensure the use of technology to solve problems of justice, to uphold human dignity under God. And I cannot repeat it enough, that we are not just some unimportant people in Ibadan. Maybe it is for times like this that we are put in this place. We are a people specially curated by God to be sitting on a Sunday morning listening to this in the name of anniversary. Because an anniversary is an effort in teach us to number our days. And what is the other side of it? So that we can apply our hearts to wisdom. What we are doing here, the purpose of this is so that we can apply our hearts to God's wisdom. So that we can be that which God purposed us to be. We should, as people of God, look at what is happening, studiously envisage the future of it. We should come together, ask those who know, discuss with those who know, spread the word to those who don't, encourage them also to speak with those who know, so that we can put ourselves in the right and proper place that God purposed for us to be at this time. It bears repetition. All these things happening are not a surprise to God. He had made the provision to contain it. And guess what is his provision to contain it? Us. God bless you.